these past few months, these heavy days have happened a lot too, because the price has been rising. We've seen a lot of new entrants into the marketplace, which is good. And you basically have people who are learning the fundamental case. They saw what happened in 2011. They look out further and they hear, okay, the Federal Reserve is now launching not QE4, and we're almost, I think we're over 4 trillion. They have this crazy thing going on. The Fed, New York Fed, intervene in repo markets, whatever the hell that means. But it's a lot of money being handed out.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and today it is the third and final part of my interview with James Anderson of the Silver Doctors, where we talk about the Department of Justice investigation into precious metals, whether it's legit, whether it's for show. And also another thing I asked James about, for people who are actually interested in buying silver but don't know what actual product to get, we covered that at the end, as I thought that would be helpful. So with that said, here is the interview, and I hope you enjoy. Another thing we're watching unfold, somewhat reminiscent of a large bucket of paint drying, is this Department of Justice investigation into the precious metals, which I know you're aware of this. John Edmonds, that was last November that he agreed to those charges. So, and we're late October now. So years gone by, a couple other guys were charged, pled guilty, some cases ongoing. Yet, to me, it's kind of baffling that we have things like a flash crash, I believe, on Friday. Yesterday, silver went up 30 cents, down 30 cents on no news. Last Fed meeting where the rate cut wasn't fully priced in, we saw silver and gold get destroyed. So there's a wide range of opinions on this investigation. Is it, are these guys really legitimately going after and trying to stop what I think you and I would both call one of the more blatant financial crimes that's been ongoing? I wonder what they're sitting there thinking while they're watching these price charts go nuts almost daily. What any thoughts on that? Whether it's a real investigation, where it's going to end up, or anything along those lines?
Yeah, the cynics, I think, who are looking on have been rolling their eyes the last 10 years with all these fines and these wrist slaps. Obviously, this is a next level because you've got the Department of Justice involved, and the real threat of federal prison terms for some of these people who are involved. And the question of, is kind of a two-part question. There could be more. This investigation could be leading further, and they could be leaning on some of these people in order to shorten some of their sentences or their fines, whatever they're going to get more information, to go deeper. I think ultimately the Department of Justice, they have to know that when you allow this type of criminality in the financial markets, you are basically debasing the full faith and credit in your financial markets. And we in the United States are in the privileged position of our financial markets being the leaders in the world for a lot of things. And in terms of gold and silver pricing, day to day, that's what they are. And the fact is that the average people who have been investing in this industry for the last 10 years or so, they've lost a lot of faith in these financial markets, and it's only grown in the last 5-10 years in terms of allegations being proven correct, allegations being proven right, and not being just straight up conspiracy theory, but actually, they are artificially moving these prices day in, day out, month out, year in. And, once you get a situation where the momentum moves that way and the faith in those markets start to wane, it could really get off and go the wrong way. And I don't think the U.S. government wants to lose the power of dictating what commodity prices are, okay? Empire wants to be able to dictate. They don't want to leave that stuff to chance, right? I mean, look at Russia, look at Venezuela, look at all these oil-rich countries where they get told what the price of oil is because they have really no sway in the matter. They have no real leverage in the matter, except for the fact that they dig it out of the ground and get told what the price is, right? So their economies get trashed whenever they want. Whenever the Pentagon maybe decides, yeah, this will be the policy, we need to take out some of these oil dictators, let's drop the price on them. I mean, that's the type of level of sophistication that's involved when you actually control the commodity prices. And I just think it's naive. It would be naive as a child to think that, like, yeah, Empire's not going to want to control the price of commodity. They always do. They always do historically, and now it's even more complex and sophisticated. And for anyone to believe that that's not the case, you just go look up CPM Group's documents where they literally are incentivizing foreign central banks to come in and move prices wherever they want at a discount. That's just a fact that those documents have been there since 2014. So anyone who doubts me or thinks I'm crazy, just go look that up and then think about what that means, what possibly has been going on in the markets that actually dictate the price of real goods and services, things that people dig out of the ground, things people dig it out of mountains, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's a crazy world, and the idea that we're going to just let free market prices dictate where things go, I think is a naive way to look at the world. I think eventually, yeah, commodity prices they have to reach equilibrium. You could rig them for 5 or 10 years, 20 years even, but eventually they shoot out like a rocket and they go crazy, and everyone looks around each other and says, look, the Hunt brothers did it. This happens from time to time, and it's going to happen again. But the last 5 or 10 years, they have been surprising in the level of size and scope and how long they've been allowed to happen. But I do think that this U.S. Department of Justice investigation is a positive step. And I do think some of these guys are going to probably get prison time, as they should. And if you do that, you'll start to, so long as the evidence merits it. But if you do that, then you're going to start building some more confidence back in your financial markets. And I think the U.S. doesn't want to leave that to chance. I think they still want to dominate in terms of financial market power. They don't want to let other emerging markets like China start to take over. And then it would be hard to trust, China with price discovery in terms of commodity prices. And I don't think the U.S. wants to do that. I think the U.S. would rather have that handle on what the prices of goods and services.
Don't want to trust anyone else when they can rig it themselves, right?
I mean, of course not. Right? I mean, it's it is what it is. I just think that those documents are pretty damning. The fact that the 2014 documents about the foreign central banks allowed to come in and trade financial derivatives, which dictate the price of real goods a lot of times. That tells you everything you need to know. That there's guys behind the curtain, and don't look at them, but they're over there and they're working on it. And my question is the PBOC getting discounts now with the new COMEX yuan traded futures contract? Are they going to be allowed to come into our financial markets and move prices where they think's good for them?
Maybe there's a tariff on that. Who knows?
But the whole idea of we live in a capitalist system and they're not in a capitalist system, it's ridiculous. Like, this idea that we have a capitalist system is just so perverted now. It's just, stop using the word capitalist, just call it crony capitalist or whatever you want to call it. Stop using that term. It's not even that at all.
And I think that's unfortunate, because I run into people sometimes who are new to the show or some of the stuff I talk about, and they're, especially if they're more of a liberal or democratic background, they're saying like, oh, this capitalism bastard. And,
Right.
And it's like, I get it. I remember walking through Occupy Wall Street my last couple of years ago in the New York Stock Exchange. There was one day I saw one guy holding a sign saying a job is a right, and he was talking to a guy wearing a Ron Paul t-shirt.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can see that people are angry because their money has been stolen. The dollar's lost 99% of its value, so we can build tanks and blow up holes in the sand.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things that, we've been conditioned to think life without government or life without the dollar is just going to be, we're shooting each other in the streets. Although, just imagine if all that money that gets stolen and wasted and goes to JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, if the people have that back, I mean, you can make the argument we'd be better off with tulip bulbs at this point in terms of regular people living.
Yeah, it's a little late. I mean, we've kind of neglected our infrastructure for many decades now. I mean, just drive through the United States, you have bridges that are falling down, collapsing. It's like, it's been pretty obvious that we've lived in a society in the last few decades where it's been self-interest above all else. And you can say, I'm proud to be an American, I'm a patriot, et cetera, et cetera. And you can do the act on TV and have the corporate media say all that stuff, but actions, look at the actions. The actions tell you everything. And the actions have been lousy in terms of the average U.S. citizen, and they have a right to be angry and very distraught with the future. I mean, look at the choices that you're given in terms of leadership. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic.
Well, fortunately, I consider you a leader and someone who's actually taking action to help these steps and educate people of what it's an unfortunate situation, but again, I know it's not always the easiest thing to do. You point out fact, and they're the guys telling you you're the tinfoil. I got to get a
Sure.
tinfoil hat for the show so I can wear it. And but it's not always an easy thing to speak up about, which I really appreciate about what you do. And actually, perhaps before we wrap up, one question I get quite a bit that I'll bet you'd be great to answer this. When a lot of people hear gold, silver, and finally they say, all right, well, I'm ready to buy some silver. For some reason, I found the amount is usually $10,000 or $15,000. I don't know why that particular, but I find people say, $10,000 or $15,000. What should I buy? What actual coins,
Sure.
junk silver? So let's say we were creating the starter pack. Someone who's just getting into it primarily because they think the price is going to rise. So you want to have some liquidity, something that you can sell back if you need to. So for around the 10 or 15 grand level, what type of products would you recommend for folks?
So if I have someone coming into the market for the first time, first I'm going to ask them why are they interested in bullion in general, and I'll listen to them. And if I hear concerns about losing what they have, they're definitely going to want to have some gold, because you want an anchor in the portfolio that's going to be more stable. If they start talking about, the currency is going to probably lose a lot of purchasing power, and I think that silver is going to do really well because it tends to do really well in those types of scenarios. So, obviously they're profit driven. There is combination of protecting what you have and then also enhancing it. So if I hear people talking about enhancing their wealth, then yeah, they need some silver allocation too. If you're a U.S. citizen, I think to start, you just go with the basics: gold eagles, silver eagles. I think that those are the 1-2 punch. If you were talking about foundation of like your bullion position, I would suggest that be the foundation, is to come with those coins, because yes, the premiums are a little high, but when you go to sell them, you're going to get a lot. We're going to recoup a lot of that premium back. I think silver eagles, for instance, typically sell dollar over spot. And in times of physical bullion shortages, there's been times where dealers in the industry have come out and said, "Hey, customer base, we'll buy the silver eagles back from you at $3 over spot." And that's when spot prices were like around 20 or in the teens even. So in 2008, we had a situation where silver eagles had an 80% premium over the $9 silver spot price, and that was because there just wasn't enough product. So it actually allows for some arbitrage opportunities. Like if you have a silver IRA, my suggestion would be go all silver eagles, and then when there's a shortage, sell your silver eagles to a dealer you trust and buy some other products. And you'll all of a sudden you'll gain 50% in your silver in your total holdings if you do it right. Obviously, you got to work with a dealer that you trust, and that will deliver even if it's a back order situation. But that arbitrage, it exists. I've used that arbitrage before. Silver eagles allow that for you. When there's shortages, their premiums jack up, and there are people who are willing to pay up for that, and it's worth taking advantage of. So I would suggest to the person, after I understood why they were interested, those two: gold and silver eagles to start. And then after you've gotten a core position and you really want to drive down maybe the costs of acquisition, then maybe go to the rounds and the bars, so you get more ounces for your fiat currency week to week, month to month, as you save, as you use it as kind of a savings account. I mean, I love gold and silver, and it's been kind of annoying the fact that I'm not in the United States. We take for granted in the United States how easy it is logistically to have things shipped to you and all that stuff. Not so where I live anymore, so it's not as fun. I can't just take some portion of my paycheck and have it delivered to my home, and that exciting feeling of cutting it open and putting it away, good feeling of saving. Now it's just digital. I just stick it into an account. It doesn't feel as good. So I miss that. And if you're in the United States, you're one of the lucky few in the world who does have the opportunity to do that, to trade fiat currency for physical bullion for a long-term holding. And I think it's a privilege, and it's very, very, it's one of the blessings of living in the U.S. is how cheap it is. The fact that our VAT is so low, and people who live in Europe, they can't even get into silver because the VAT is like 21%. In China, the VAT is 13%. So in India, even there's VAT on both precious metals, but they still buy them a lot more than we do. But anyways, that's it. Go with the silver eagles, gold eagles if you're an American citizen. If you're out of the country, go with your respective country if you have it, or union. If you're in Europe, I would stick with Austrian silver products. I think it's good to have a euro legal tender under coin. And anyways, I think that kind of gets at the gist of it.
Right. And in terms, again, of the different silver products that are out there, another one I don't think you touched on would be the junk silver, which a lot of people hear about. Where does that fit into?
Junk silver is great, especially for people who have worries about using currency in a currency crisis. And you can get junk silver very close to spot in terms of melt value. And so you can get a lot for your currency, your fiat currency that you're using to buy it with. Junk silver is cool because it is still legal tender in our country. And so, for instance, if we were in a situation where you wanted to use it as legal tender, you could specifically write it out in like a term of sale, and it could be contract enforceable. Same with Silver Eagles, as long as you explicitly had it in a contract and maybe had a notary public sign it, so it would be enforceable in court of law. But you could use it for direct purchases of things, just based on the silver value that's in them, and the other counterparty that's buying or using it would know that too. And so the legal tender face value would be very low on the transaction, but you'd be very explicit in the contract of sale, stating what you were using as the medium of exchange. And those coins are great. I mean, I love those coins. I think it's a great side piece. I wouldn't make it the majority of my stack, but I think it would be nice to have some just in case. And it's also cool. There's a limited population of them. They keep dwindling year after year. They're getting melted and used in industry. And premiums are so low right now that a lot of refiners probably are melting it in the back, hush hush, not telling anyone, and then using it for industrial bars. And that's sad in the sense that we're losing some of our history, but it's also exciting in the sense that you can still get some of your history and your heritage for such a cheap price still. So I don't know. My belief in pre-64 coins are pretty cool. And once you start stacking those, they're pretty fun because they're so unique, each and every one that you pull out of the bag.
Yeah, and I was looking around here. I thought I had on my floor my SD Bullion junk silver bag because I actually did buy some.
Nice.
And one last quick question on those. Would it be correct that for both a Silver Eagle and for junk silver, so for the Silver Eagles, that technically, now I'm not saying to go and try this, but at least according to the law, if you wanted to get on a plane and go to another country, if you have 9,999 Silver Eagles, because they're marked as $1, and similar, let's say you had that amount of, dollars in quarters, be marked to that $1, not the actual silver amount. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you could do legal tender arguments all day and night, but if you start getting in the way of empire, there's been guys, for instance, in Las Vegas who paid his employees with gold and Silver Eagles. And he used the low legal tender face value as a way to argue for, lower taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And so he was basically playing the system, using the low legal tender face value against the system, and the system threw him in jail, right? It's the same thing if you try and pass through an airport arguing, these 20 monster boxes of Silver Eagles, or that's only worth 10 grand, right? I mean, you're going to sit there and argue that, what's going to happen? You're not going to get through with those 20 cases because people are going to see you're a smart ass. And they're not going to, it's not a court of law. They're the ones who are in charge, and they're going to not let you go through. So my suggestion is if you're moving bullion through any of these airports or across borders, yeah, you can move $10,000 or less in terms of purchasing power, right? So $10,000 is roughly a case of Silver Eagles. Yeah, that'd be no problem. But once you get over the 10,000 threshold, they at least have to fill out a document stating that you did that. And so it's just the U.S. government knows you're moving a lot of money outside of the country. That's really all that happens. It's not like you get thrown in jail because you have over 10 grand. It's just the U.S. gets informed of it happening. So I don't know. I would be very, very. I would not suggest that you use the legal tender face value argument.
So be careful about that one. And if you try that Chris told you to do it.
Yeah, you're the mouse and they're the cat. Be careful on that one.
James, it's been great catching up with you. A lot of great information you shared here, and perhaps just in wrapping up, if you can let folks know where they can find the show, also how they can reach you if they'd like to purchase or sell. You guys do buybacks as well, I believe.
Correct. So sdbullion.com/sell is where we list a lot of the prices for many of the products that we buy back from customers. So not only do we obviously sell to customers, but we also buy back from customers as well. SDBullying.com is the website. SDBullying.com/blog is the section that I run. And I also do a podcast weekly for the Silver Doctors YouTube channel. And this year coming up, we're probably going to make a switch over where I'll be doing the podcast on the SD Bullying YouTube channel. So look out for that. That'll be an exciting change coming. And I may change a little bit of the format. We'll see. We got to think that through. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure catching up as always. Certainly fascinating things happening. And again, I know neither of us can promise anyone when the price of these metals are going to move yet. Just you continue to bring good information that I appreciate listening to, helps me in my own planning, and we'll have the link of all that good information below there so folks can find you. And that said, James, I'll let you run today, but thanks so much for joining me, and we'll look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks, Chris.